Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. I'm delaying going out and doing my chores this morning. I a bit sort of chilly, to be honest with you, and I decided to have breakfast and look at the world of YouTube before going out to run a saw. And I'm pleased I did, because I ended up watching the entirety of the Fabio, Wardley, Justis, Huni press conference. And I say I'm pleased because it was a press conference where there was no trash talking, there was no amateur theatrics, there was no let me at him, hold me back, let me at him, hold me back kind of thing. It was there was a little bit of needle. It was and a bit funny in places. Basically, you've got two teams that essentially will be getting along with each other. Eddie Hearn was highly complimentary of Frank Warren. He did say that he feels that despite Frank Warren's vast experience and age and all these sort of wonderful things, that he might have made a mistake in picking Justis Huni, but perhaps it was George Warren, the less experienced, the more youthful George Warren who'd made this mistake. So that was kind of funny, it's like a backhanded compliment or whatever, right? It was kind of well done. Frank Warren, of course, sitting there smiling. It's all, very much like a bromance these days between Frank and Eddie, and they were both complimentary of each other. There's a fellow by the name of Michael Ofu, I think that's how he pronounces his name. He works for Platform Sports. He's a promoter of some description, connected somehow to Dillian White. I'm not quite sure what the relationship is, but Michael Ofu, for the purposes of this press conference, was in Team Fabio Wardley's side of the table, and he made some sort of less than pleasant comments to Eddie Hearn about how Eddie Hearn had been born with a silver spoon in his mouth and all that sort of, stuff. Trying to get a little bit of spice going, probably trying to make his name relevant, because honestly, if he just sat there and said, something, fairly vanilla, I would have ignored the guy. I honestly don't know who he is. And he's got really nothing to say. He said he was an osteopath, and I don't know what else he said, but he was kind of a little bit trying to make a name for himself by being a bit chippy towards Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn seemed to, fence that off quite easily. But anyhow, Michael Ofo's achieved what Michael Ofo wanted to achieve, which is to get some guy on YouTube mentioning his name. So there we go. Justis Huni said that he recognizes that Fabio Wardley has greater power over him, but that he believes Justis Huni, has the faster hands and the better footwork, and of course, by implication, the better amateur record, the more experienced. Says nice things about Fabio Wardley. Very grateful for the opportunity, of course. Eddie Hearn said that there had been talk of Justis Huni and Moses Itoma, which I think that would have been a really good fight. But anyhow, that fight hadn't materialized. There was also apparently talk of Justis Huni and Joseph Parker, which, that strikes me as quite the step up. Justis Huni, I wouldn't think was ready for Joe Parker, but apparently they were looking for a big fight. All to say, they were looking for a big fight and they were not going to shy away from anybody. So when this opportunity came up to fight Fabio Wardley, they were not going to shy away from it. They jumped at the chance, even though it's a bit short notice, of course. It was also mentioned that Justis Huni, for most of his professional fights, hasn't actually been fit. He's always either had some, niggling illness or injury or something like that. But clearly it hasn't held him back. He's 12-0, right? He's also rated 10 in the world. Fabio's rated 9 in the world by BoxRec. And they're head of their respective WBA, WBO rankings. They're both ranked number 1. So this is really cool. You've got two different sanctioning bodies, number 1s fighting, which is really neat. Fabio Wardley, of course, Fabio is a master of verbal exchanges. He's really sharp, and he's really articulate. So he was saying that, like, if you want to spend 5 minutes, go through my resume, you'll see I'm more than power. I am, lots of things. I always put people down, or I will, stop them, but it's because of these other things, not just because of my power. If you think it's just because of my power, then, it's going to be a very difficult night for you. Dillian Whyte said, no, just tell him it's because of the power. Just say it's because of the power. Don't let them know anything else. It was kind of an amusing thing from Dillian Whyte, who also said that he had sparred Fabio Wardley when Fabio Wardley was, just getting into things, and that he was impressed by how Fabio Wardley moved. Like, he's different, he's awkward, and of course he's got power. So a well-behaved press conference, and it was interesting, even though there weren't any of these moments of explosive drama. I'm getting more excited about the fight. I am a big Fabio Wardley supporter, I suppose. I like the way Fabio Wardley goes about his business. And that's not because he's a Brit or anything like that. I just like the way he fights. It appeals to me, right? So I'm supporting Fabio Wardley. I think Fabio Wardley will win. But the more I hear about Justis Huni, the more excited about the fight I am. Justis Huni definitely strikes me, and from what I'm reading and from what subscribers are saying, he's going to come to fight, he's going to be a handful, he's going to provide Fabio Wardley with challenges that Fabio Wardley may not have seen before. So this could be much closer to a 50-50 fight than I thought it was going to be. So I'm looking forward to it. June the 7th, Portman Road, massive crowd supporting Fabio Wardley, of course. Both these guys are like 6'4", 6'5". They're both weigh around the 240-ish. They're both undefeated. There's a lot at stake. I think this could be a good scrap. I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, there's the press conference in the bag. Nobody got injured. No security guards required to, sort of police people up. And yet it was interesting and entertaining, and it whets my appetite. So there we are. Thanks so much. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. And now I'm going to off and run a saw. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.